Hi, and welcome back to Old School Blues Guitar. We are trying to dissect Otis Rush's masterpiece, Double Trouble, featuring Otis and Ike Turner on the guitars. And as I mentioned in the introduction, this tune is a little tough to break down precisely because the two guitars overlap each other and the other instruments and Otis Rush's vocal tend to cloud things up and make it difficult. I've tried everything. I've put earphones on and cranked it up. I've listened to this in my car, and I'm still not 100% sure. But what I am sure about is pretty much where he's playing and how he's getting the sounds, whether it's Otis Rush or Ike Turner on this tune. In the first part of the lesson, we looked at the introduction, and now we're going to talk about the fills that are used throughout the song. And I'm going to really take you through all the fills, and then we'll do the solo and kind of anything else about the song that's interesting before we wrap up. So the fills from the very first verse, you got Ike Turner or Otis or whoever's playing these, sounds like Ike Turner to me, playing a series of fills that are mostly in the first position D blues box. And for instance, the first one, he does something like this. And that's the Ike Turner style, those quick licks and the bends on the first and second strings, and then kind of chicken picking, choking it. So that's the first fill. And he does a lot on the first and second strings between the 10th and the 13th fret. So that lick right there, I'll show you a few of these note for note. He's going to do a bend up on the 13th fret of the first string. I'm using my pinky in what I call a long bend position. All four fingers are bending the first string. That's how I do it because it feels like I have more control over the bend. So he does this. So I'm bending up, and then going to the 10th fret of the first string, 13, 10 on the second string, and then that quick bend, quick long bend on the 13th fret of the second string. Something like that. So, that kind of lick. You hear that throughout the tune, and I'll show you some variations that he does. You also hear him do a lot of this, these really intense long bends on the first and second strings. So that's one. Then you might throw in some quick bends on the third string too. So that bend there, what I'm doing is doing the long bend, bending up pretty far. You have to mess around with that until you get the sound, the tone you're looking for. And as I'm doing that, I'm doing some vibrato. I'm using my wrist and I'm shaking my fingers. And this is another skill, like palm muting and other things that you have to just play around with and experiment until you get the touch, until you can make it sound the way you want to. So he does that kind of bend on both the first string and the second string, like this. And he'll throw in these quick little bends on the third string, and I'm doing that at the 12th fret of the third string. So these bends, you're going to hear him use as fills throughout the tune. Another variation on that idea is he'll start with the second string bend and then go to the third string bend. And each bend has that vibrato with it, and that was the Ike Turner sound. He might be using his whammy bar on this, and I'm not real good with this thing. But if you bend and you shake the whammy bar at the same time, that's probably what he was doing. But you can get a similar sound just by, using your wrist. Again, the whammy bar is something that you have to experiment with and practice until you can get control of it. It's something I'm kind of just getting into. So you got a lot of these fills on the first, second, and third strings using the bends. Another fill that he does in a couple different places is a lick like this. Something like that, and that's that double stop that I showed you as part of the introduction. So he's doing something like this. And I'm starting it. You can lead into it from the 12th fret of the 4th string to the 10th fret of the 3rd string to the 12th fret. And then I'm picking it, I'm picking downstroke and then 2 upstrokes. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And then he does it again where he just does it twice. And something like that. I've got these all tabbed out for you, the different fills that are used in each verse the best I can. There's another fill that's really kind of cool. And on this one, he's going to use a pull-off. Does something like that. And he does it twice. I think it's at the end of the second verse or somewhere. I can't remember offhand, but he's pulling off the 13th fret of the first string to the 8th fret, or the 10th fret. Then he does a bend on the 3rd string. Then he does it again, going from the 1st string and then doing the same thing on the 2nd string into the bend. And that's another kind of cool fill that you hear him use in this tune. Then one more really cool fill that he does toward the end of the song, he's going to go way up on the neck on the 1st string and play something like that. And I can't remember how many times he bends, but he's bending. I'm doing that long bend again, but this time over the 2nd position, D bar chord at the 17th to 19th frets. And I'm actually going over that with my first finger on the 17th fret of the 1st string and my pinky on the 20th fret of the 1st string. And he bends like that. And then he goes, I think it's from the 17th fret of the 1st string to the 20th fret of the 2nd string. And then he's going to slide. So it's like this. Let's do the whole thing. Slide from the 19th fret of the 3rd string back down. So that whole lick, something like that. Then he goes into this. Something like that. And what I'm doing here is a quick rake. And this is another Ike Turner technique. And what I've got is really my D, F shape at the 10th to 12th frets, but I'm taking my ring finger out of it. I'm just using my 1st and 2nd fingers. My 1st finger barring the 10th fret, 1st and 2nd strings. My 2nd finger is on the 11th fret of the 3rd string. And then I'm just scraping the pick downward, getting the 3rd, 2nd, and 1st string. And I'm doing a little bit of palm mute with my right hand palm resting on the strings down by the bridge. And I'm doing that lick. So he does that to the 13th fret of the 2nd string to the 8th, 10th fret. And then a bend on the 3rd string. And if I remember right, he winds up on the 12th fret of the 5th string. So that's kind of a cool lick, this high. It's not note for note in that high bend. That's something that takes some skill to get that to sound right, but that's what he's playing. And there's one more kind of cool fill that I almost forgot about. He does this little kind of thing at one point toward the end of the song. And all I'm doing is picking, not pulling off, kind of quick chicken picking and muting the strings with my right hand palm. On the 13th fret of the 1st string, 13th fret of the 2nd string, and then 12, 10 on the 3rd string. Whoops. Gets to the 12th fret of the 4th string, and then winds up on the 10th fret with a vibrato on the 5th string. And that's because the tune at that point is going into the 4, so it's, which is really kind of neat. I've got all those fills tabbed out for you, so what I would do is listen to the original tune and go through verse by verse. What you can't figure out yourself by what I've shown you here, check out the tab and you can get it. If I remember any of the other fills here toward the end of the lesson, I'll double back and get them. So throughout the song, Ike Turner is playing these great fills behind Otis Rush's vocal. And it sounds like Otis Rush is throwing some guitar in there too. It's just tough to, figure out who's playing what. When I come back, we will take a look at the solos and then some other interesting ideas that are part of this great song.